Good morning. Good morning, good morning. A lively space. If you have the ability to scoot in the middle of the road to leave some seats on the end, please do. But welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We're a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your identities are welcome here. Special welcome to visitors and newcomers. We're glad you're here. There's a preschool playroom open for young ones and activities for kids following the Time for All Ages. After service, you can join us for refreshments down in the Commons, where you can find ways to get involved in the life of the church and the community. For June, our offering collected over $1,000 to support Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, working for environmental sustainability in ecology and advocacy. For the month of July, we are collecting for Children's Dental Health Services, providing important care for folks with limited resources in the area. You can give as the plates pass or anytime online. Thanks for your generosity for that important work. Throughout the summer, we've been holding important building design opportunities with Locus Architects for our new church home. There is a special forum today, shortly after service, from 11:30 to 1:30, where we'll start in the sanctuary and then have some small groups for conversation. You can grab some coffee. There'll be a few extra snacks out downstairs as well to tide you over. And then you can join us in the sanctuary right up here. So all are welcome. Whether you knew about that, were planning to attend or not, you're welcome to join us at 11:30 up here in the sanctuary. So I invite you to take a breath as we enter this time of worship with the words of our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. In just a moment, the music will call us back for our opening hymn, which is in the Teal hymnal. We're going to invite you to use these old school things called a hymnal as a practice of having a little less screen time in our lives and in the world, something I long for, and a way for newcomers or those unfamiliar with the songs to get to know them a little bit. Even if you can't read music, sometimes it's a little easier to follow along in the hymnal. So keep track in your order of service, this printed paper thing. So the music will call us back in just a moment, but for now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and greet those around you. I love old school.
The following chalice lighting is courtesy of Sophia Lyon Foss. Many of the past generation and many of today have found three: abiding values in prayer, the quiet meditation of life, the reaching out towards the universal and the infinite, and the courageous facing of one's profoundest wishes. Let generations sense and share with the children the glory and the mystery of everyday things. Let them look with the sympathy upon humanity's age-long dilemmas. Let no questions be taboo. The next generation can ill afford to have deeper values deleted from the book of life.
I would like to invite any children or anybody else who'd like to come up. What do I have with me today? Remember what this is? It's only made one appearance so far. My Wonder Box. That's a new thing? Yeah, it's only been here once, so I have a Wonder Box. Any guesses what I have today? No. So I have a few things. I have this. I think it's kind of cute. Does anybody know what this is? Nope, it's not. It does look like jellyfish. It is not. What do you think it is, Freya? A skeleton. It's a handprint. Yep. And I made this last year. This is my very happy alien from last year's Chalice Camp. It does kind of look like slime. And then I have some other stuff in here. Claire, does this look familiar? It's from an old Chalice Camp. Does anybody remember this? What is it, Freya? Oh, it does kind of look like a porcupine, but it has a big mane. Nico. A lion. So for those of you who were at this camp and made these, do you remember what the theme of this Chalice Camp was? No, it was Claire. Circus theme because of P.T. Barnum. For those of you who didn't know, he was a Universalist. And then I have this. Oh. Does anybody recognize anybody in this picture? So one of the people in this picture is Hanukkah. And she did the renderings of the building, of our current building that hung in the commons downstairs for a while, and because she is working on her Master's of Architecture. The other one is Rose, which she ducked out right at this time. There she is. Rose, so does everybody recognize Rose now in here? So this is actually from the second Chalice Camp that was ever held back in 2012. And I think that was the one that Rose were you co-director that year, Rose? Do you remember? Oh, I'm asking her questions, but she's not listening. Were you co-director this year, the second year? I think so. Yeah, so this goes back a ways. And Claire, my daughter who did the chalice lighting, was actually at the very first Chalice Camp in 2011. And now she is one of our senior counselors. Because what we've fostered with Chalice Camp over the years is just a second, Laura, okay? We've started with kids, Claire when she was 5 and my son Trygve when he was 3. And now they're almost 18 and 16 and they're the senior counselors. And they've been to Chalice Camp every year because as they get to be like in 6th, 7th grade, we start turning them into leaders. And then by the time they're in 8th and going into 8th and 9th grade, they're junior counselors. And then they become senior counselors. And this is something where we have kids who, if you came to Chalice Camp, you'd probably not know who they were because you'd never see them here. But they come every year to learn and grow and eventually become counselors. And we get counselors coming back year after year because one of the most profound things that I've heard is when Trygve became a counselor, my son, he said, I don't know if I'd go to Chalice Camp if I didn't remember how much fun I had with my counselors when I was little. So he wants to be the counselor that gets to come and have fun with those kids who are at Chalice Camp. And I'm talking a lot about Chalice Camp because it starts tomorrow for our friends who are 5 and older. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I see some smiles and some people ready for it. So here, Rose, this is the picture of you and Hanukkah. And so these are all memories that we make while we're at Chalice Camp. So I'm curious to see what wonders I'm going to have in my box the next time we're talking about people imparting knowledge onto each other and what we have by the end of the week at Chalice Camp. So join us next week because it is going to be our Chalice Camp service, barring a tree falling on the building. So we will now have the children's benediction, and I'll meet the children right over by the door.
May peace surround you. May love surround you as you go on your way.
Good morning. It's good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. It's our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here, we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Colleen Murphy, serving as our caring coordinator, arranging care for our members and friends in need. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. And life can be challenging. We could all use some extra support with what life throws at us. And if you are experiencing those challenges in your life, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. If you need additional care or personal pastoral care, please reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. Today's flowers are shared by Marge Dalen in memory of her husband Merle Dalen, who passed away in 1993. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing sadness, illness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. We revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. We hold this morning in our hearts Juliet Summers. After a lumpectomy a few weeks ago, test results yielded an invasive cancer. Doctors use the words small, early, and treatable, and we hope those are all positive signs. Please keep her and her husband, Bob, in your thoughts as they travel this healthcare journey. And Heather Vinge Hansen shares the news that after a full thyroidectomy surgery and a long, anxious wait for results, it was determined that there was absolutely no cancer detected, and she has no more restrictions. So she is celebrating this morning on a trail run, and we celebrate this good news with her as well. Here, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith is our focus. Let us carry that out into the wider world. May the faith in the Spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I want you to take a deep breath. Breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you, the sky, and beyond that, the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath. You yourself made of earth and stars. Know that in this house you are named, you are known as beloved, as sacred. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God and Gaia of many names and beyond all naming. Life on the surface, we know, is only part of the story. There is so much more to things that seem hidden, be it in the roots and the soil of a forest, or the miles beneath the ocean's waves, or the soul, the heart, often holding so much more than we know. May we live in this world that much more intentionally, knowing how much more there is than we often notice, whether it be pain or beauty, possibility or grief. Sometimes calling us to make noise when it seems society doesn't notice the impact of our choices on people, on planet, in classrooms, or from high courts. Sometimes it calls us to silence, where we put our head and our heart in a place of noticing, be it in meditation or in prayer, or bearing witness to a story that is not our own, so that we might know ever more the brokenness and the beauty beyond the surface of all things. Hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own heart this day in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time, just speak their names. For all the names spoken and unspoken, may we all be held in love and grace. These words of meditation are from Morgan Harper Nichols, an excerpt from their poem, Let July Be July. They write, even here, you are growing. When August is approaching and you feel a little restless, thinking about how this month might end or how this year might end, how you are supposed to start again, you are growing. And it is okay if it does not feel like it. It is okay if there are moments where you cannot see the way you have grown because far beneath the surface, the seeds have still been sown. The ground beneath your feet is still a bed for new beginnings. So much is changing around you, and you are changing too. So let July be July. And let August be August, and let yourself just be, even in uncertainty. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to solve everything. You can still find peace and grow in the wild of changing things. May it be so. Amen. The hymn is In My Soul. The lyrics are on the back of your order of service.
So there are 4 lines to this. I'm going to sing each line and then invite you to sing it back to me. And then I'll sing it all together and then invite you to sing it all together with me. In my soul, the sun is shining. In my soul, the sun is shining. In my blood, the rolling sea. In my blood, the rolling sea. In my breath, the air of mountains. In my breath, the air of mountains. In my body, Mother Earth. In my body, Mother Earth. In my soul, the sun is shining. In my blood, the rolling sea. In my breath, the air of mountains. In my body, Mother Earth. In my soul, the sun is shining. In my blood, the rolling sea. In my breath, the air of mountains. In my body,
The reading today is The Work of Happiness by May Sarton. I thought of happiness, how it is woven out of the silence in the empty house each day, and how it is not sudden and it is not given, but is creation itself, like the growth of a tree. No one has seen it happen, but inside the bark, another circle is growing in the expanding ring. No one has heard the root go deeper in the dark, but the tree is lifted by this inward work, and its plumes shine, and its leaves are glittering. So happiness is woven out of the peace of hours, and strikes its roots deep in the house alone. The old chest in the corner, cool waxed floors, white curtains softly and continually blown as the free air moves quietly about the room, a shelf of books, a table, and the whitewashed wall. These are the dear, familiar gods of home, and here the work of faith can best be done. The growing tree is green and musical. For what is happiness but growth in peace? The timeless sense of time when furniture has stood a lifespan in a single place. As the air moves, so the old dreams stir the shining leaves of present happiness. No one has heard thought or listened to a mind, but where people have lived in inwardness, the air is charged with blessing and does bless. Windows look out on mountains, and the walls are kind. With gratitude, we will now receive the offering.
Doesn't take long for something so towering to humble you. It's happened a few times to me recently, regularly actually, perhaps to you too. Most recently, as is now common for us in the summer in our family, it was at a few Minnesota state parks where I was easily humbled. Some of you may know, or maybe you and your family is similar. Maybe you're part of a very special group of people known as the Minnesota State Park Passport people. It's kind of a collect them all invitation to visit all the state parks, and you have this little stamp passport booklet that you get stamped and normally buy some caramels at the same time. And then if you reach a certain level of engagement, which is self-defined for us, then we get a medallion to add to Slippy. Slippy is our walking stick named after the state flower, the lady slipper, that helps us sometimes not slip on the trails where we've hiked and camped. And in the last several weeks, we've been to a few parks, nearby Whitewater for an annual trip, as well as St. Croix up by the Wisconsin border, Camden State Park in the flatter western prairie part of the state, and then Itasca, holding the headwaters of the Mississippi River. In each place, there is always something that humbles me, usually by its beauty or its grandness or its rarity. In Camden, it was the movement between forest and open field in a winding path where at one moment you were sheltered under the canopy of old trees, and the next the sky opened up as if it was inviting you to gaze upward. There was an expanse towering over me, and where I was reminded of Emily Dickinson's poem, "Some keep the Sabbath going to church, I keep it staying at home. With a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome, God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long, so instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along." I like to try to recite that poem on Sundays when I'm away, telling myself I'm still in a sacred space everywhere, but it's not a replacement for real church. Just kidding. Maybe it is for you, but here you are. So, at Whitewater, in a different park, it's the anxious blessing of humility, of no cell signal under the towering bluffs, being disconnected in beautiful ways, and the reminder that people just might not need to be in contact with me all the time. And that's okay, I tell myself. That's a practice of humility maybe for you too. At Whitewater, it's also the miraculous beauty of almost no mosquitoes due to the lay of the land and the bluffs and the ancient stone. Up at St. Croix, it was encountering one of my regular humble-making experiences, which every time I get close to it, I think, oh yeah, I can do this, no problem. And then, just a few flights up the old metal fire tower, I realize, no, I'm actually terrified of this. So it's a horrible idea. And apparently, confidence is a state of being based on elevation for me, and it hovers quite close to the ground. At Itasca, the most recent trip, which is most definitely not blessed by a lack of mosquitoes, it still offered several moments of humility, where I was reminded how rocks can be quite sharp on shore and then deceptively smooth and slippery in running water, or how a canoe and myself might take a little while to find a natural balance. But I was also humbled by the stories there. Like the story of bravery, maybe you know too, about Mary Gibbs, the first woman to serve as park commissioner, going head to head with the lumber company that was destroying the lakeshore near Itasca, saying in defiance to the lumber company head, saying to not lay a hand on the lever to change the water levels. This head was saying this under the threat of a gun, and Mary Gibbs replied, "I will put my hand there, and you won't shoot it off." And she did get the water levels changed for a time, and the power of lumber and politics couldn't protect her work long term. Sometimes you win small victories, and the larger work, as we well know, continues long after. Courage in the face of adversity, with a very uncertain future, is a type of story that reminds you, that humbles you, that we live in the shadows and the stories of giants, of courage and soul that have gone before us, inviting us to live in these stories and to keep living them, to add our presence and our parts of new chapters and new generations. And also towering above me among the stories at Itasca is a place named Preacher's Grove. Probably a bit too fitting for me. Though I wondered if there was a heresy detection system because a very few persistent flies were trying to occupy my ears as I was going into this place. But even with that, in Preacher's Grove, along Lake Itasca, there are beautiful towering pines that I know many of you have experienced too, that are nearly 300 years old. They bring you into a state of awe just by their presence. Because of the way these pines grow, it's hard for smaller ones to grow in this type of terrain and climate and the timing of wildfires. There's an expansiveness to the space, towering above, roots held fast, and then space between for breath and for paths. It was named Preacher's Grove because of a gathering of clergy years ago that were inspired by the space, but I would most like to think that the trees have always been the only preachers of that natural sanctuary. Not only might one feel a sense of humility from the towering trees themselves, but also the wisdom from the budding naturalists going along with me on that path, teaching me about fire scars on trees. When trees are injured, they develop physical and chemical boundaries around the injury and around the wound to resist and get rid of the risk of infection. Trees also grow new wood to close over those injured spaces. Injuries caused by fires result in fire scars, usually around the base in triangle sort of shape. And once a tree is scarred, they are more susceptible to future scars from fire. And yet they survive most of the time, at least these old, tall ones. And they protect themselves, scars and all, for generations. Surviving generation to generation, scars and all. What other sermon do you need? Creation itself is like the growth of a tree, writes the poet May Sarton. No one has seen it happen, but inside the bark another circle is growing in the expanding ring. No one has heard the root go deeper in the dark, they write, but the tree is lifted by this inward work, and its plumes shine and its leaves are glittering. So happiness is woven out of the peace of hours and strikes its roots deep. I've been thinking about the moments and the stories, the places, the experiences in my own life and the lives of others, the living things and people that feel like they tower over us, shining like stars, or hold us steady, deep in the ground like roots. I even love the smell of the old log buildings in many of these parks that were created as part of the New Deal in the 1930s and the Conservation Corps. The wood holds a sense of solid protection, those beams and stone and the musk that you recognize when you walk into those spaces. It has held solid for generations, trying to live with the land, the natural elements, and in that space caught among humanity and the natural world bound together. For what is happiness but growth in peace, writes the poet. The timeless sense of time when furniture has stood a lifespan in a single place, and as the air moves, so the old dreams stir, the shining leaves of present happiness. I've been thinking in these living preachers of forest and water about what wisdom is freely shared with us each day, about what the quiet, long-time presence of elders among us, be it tree or person, stone or wood, what their presence teaches us, just as much as their words or their legacy, of the tenacity sometimes of simply surviving through the scars, be they easily evident or hidden away. I've been thinking about how we tell our stories, what we pass on, what we don't, or how we pass those stories on, how we restrain ourselves constantly from arrogance or hubris at thinking we have all the answers, and to always lean toward what the Buddhists call a beginner's mind, approaching the unknown, something new, a person, a place, an idea, feeling like the beginning of the game of categories there, a person, place, or thing, but approaching it with curiosity, with openness, always. This coming week, the church will be filled with young souls in our annual summer chalice camp with the theme Under the Sea, which you may have noticed some decorations on your way in, opening toward wonder and curiosity about what values we are held in, that we are saturated in. What stories and values give us life and hold us up. It's an invitation to a type of humility that invites us to not seek control or mastery or solid or rigid definition about all things. It can be something as large as religion or democracy that this is a good reminder about, or as simple as a building design process. Messy, 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 and beautiful. Of how we interact with other people. Like with water, if you want to learn to swim, you know you can't control the water. You can't grab hold of it or become rigid. You'll sink or it will fall through your grasp. You have to find a way to let go a little bit, to hold it or to let it hold you. You have to find a balance with it to either swim or just simply be. Perhaps that is just as important for our UU kids this week and the adolescent counselors and the adult volunteers, a communal reminder that community is messy. Programmatically, physical space planning, messy feelings and planning and exhaustion and crafts and tie-dyeing and more. Sometimes tense, sometimes uncertain, sometimes you feel like it must be Wednesday of Chalice Camp. There's a lot of feelings and a lot of mess going on in the church. It's a constant reminder that we need to care for each other, to find our lost things or to find our place in the circle, to meet and find a new friend, to practice hospitality, to take care of our basic needs, rest, water, breath. I want to repeat that together a few times because I need to learn this and remember it, and I wonder if you do too. Rest, water, breath. And again, rest, water, breath. Just remember that. Rest, water, breath. And from that space, we find ways to be creative. We find ways to practice joy, like the Freezy Pops by Thursday afternoon. We learn our stories and we create our own, almost always slightly unpredictable. And yet there is something larger than any one of us that holds all of this mess together, the source of life, be it the ocean or love or beauty or the forest or justice or God, that connecting spirit of life that calls you to wonder and to mystery and to awe. It calls you into spaces that are life-giving and awe-inspiring as the depths of the oceans or as the towering pines or as expansive as the sky, as rooted and down to earth as the young voice next to you that says, do you know that trees survive a forest fire and those are the scars? I didn't know that. Together we did, and now I do, and our collective wisdom is always growing. So this year I made it halfway up the fire tower, further than last time. Once down to the ground, I thought, yeah, I probably could have done the whole thing. It's that moment where adrenaline was still there, but no longer the fear of elevation, and that's not the best decision-making place. But I'm still learning in that space, held, caught among the invitation to gaze beyond what is comfortable, to imagine what I'm capable of, or growing toward, or what I can't do. But I'm still learning, held in the majestic beauty of the forest that has weathered the storms and survived in interdependence, scars and all. We're always caught among something that is lifting us up and something holding us steady. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Caught among a story of courage and moments when fear sometimes wins the day, caught among the shelter of safety and an invitation to move in a direction further than our senses think we can go. Caught there, or better, held there, among the roots and the scars and the mess and the heavens, singing our sometimes joyful, sometimes sorrowful, sometimes hopeful songs of who we are and who we are yet to be. The hymn is for the earth forever turning. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing. Invite you, as you're comfortable, place a hand on your heart or toward the sky or earth in gratitude, and breathe deep the breath of life. Repeat after me, if you will. Rest. Water. Breath. Rest, water, breath. That's up to you. And it's up together. May it be so. Amen.
The postlude is not Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Though we'd like that.
Yeah, we love it, but this is a tune called Deep Blue Sea by Randy Sabine.